You join me in Rome, widely regarded as one of the most romantic cities in the world. However, my better half is nowhere to be seen, and I've come to this posh hotel to meet a very different object of desire. No, it's not some sultry Italian temptress, so the missus has got no need to worry. It does, however, have curves in all the right places. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the McLaren 720S. I, along with the rest of the world, first caught sight of this car back in March at the Geneva Motor Show. And as soon as that sheet came off, I was absolutely blown away. And ever since that day, I've been waiting somewhat impatiently until the day I get to drive this car. And that day, I am happy to report, happens to be today. We've already established that the looks are pretty astonishing, and importantly for a car like this, so too are the numbers. Power 710 brake horsepower, torque 568 pounds-foot, 0 to 60 2.8 seconds, top speed 212 miles per hour. The thing is, numbers aren't really all that important, not unless you're playing top trumps or competing for bragging rights in the pub with your mates. No, what is important with a car like the 720S is how it makes you feel, the enjoyment, the engagement, and the joy it brings. And that is what I am just about to find out. Before we get into the intricacies of the drive, let's talk about what it's like to sit in the 720. And very nice is the answer. McLaren has tried to remove as much plastic as possible from the cabin, replacing it instead with aluminium switches, leather and Alcantara, and that all hikes up the feeling of quality. The other slightly bizarre thing is the amount of natural light in here, and that is down to the cunning design of the body, which means that there's glass on all sides of you. And that also means that your visibility is much better in this car than it is in most other supercars. And believe you me, out here on the road, that is a valuable commodity. There's even quite a bit of space for luggage, 150 litres under the bonnet, and this big old shelf behind your head. What's not quite so successful though is this portrait-orientated infotainment touchscreen. It's a little bit confusing and awkward to navigate through, and it doesn't always do what you tell it first time round. That said, your driving position is spot on. It's nice and low slung, but do bear in mind that if you specify your car with these racing bucket seats, then you'll have no height adjustment and no adjustment for the angle of your backrest. So the big question, what is the 720S like on the road? Well, if you compare it to the 650S that it replaces, things are very similar but very different at the same time. Like before, it's built on a carbon fibre chassis that drastically reduces weight and maximises stiffness. Only this time it uses the more sophisticated monocage design also found on the P1 rather than the basic tub found on the 650. Once again, there's an active aerodynamics function whereby the rear wing can move around automatically to maximise downforce and minimise drag. This time, however, it's cleverer and more effective than before because there's a wider range of movement and faster reactions. The suspension, catchily known as Proactive Chassis Control 2, is the next generation of the already fiendishly clever system used on the 650S. Many of the components of the adaptive system are all new, and there are also more sensors and much more computing power, and that allows the suspension to go about its work even more effectively. And predictably, the result is even more impressive. Select the comfort or sport modes and the ride stays sensationally smooth and cosseting, making this car more comfortable than a lot of executive saloons, let alone other supercars. But at the same time, you can fling it around corners at the sort of speeds that the laws of physics should say are impossible, and you're never left in any doubt that it's going to stick. And then there's the engine. The new twin turbocharged 4-litre V8 unit isn't just powerful, it is relentless. The throttle's easy to modulate, so you can drive it smoothly when you need to, but put just a little bit more pressure on that pedal and it picks up speed in a seriously savage way. If you get anywhere near full throttle on the public highway, then you're being very naughty indeed. And that's a very timely point, because the fact is you won't get anywhere near this car's limits, either in terms of handling or performance, unless you find yourself a track. And, as luck would have it, so already that is terrifyingly quick. We said earlier on that it's really hard to get anywhere near full throttle on the public road, and when you come to somewhere like this and really open it up, the building of speed is just astonishing. And unlike a lot of cars, it doesn't smash into the rev limiter when you get to the end of a gear. It just gently impedes your progress, and then you tug the paddle to change up a cog and you're just thrown forwards with just as much force as before. It's pretty amazing. But despite the huge speeds, the car feels completely stable, and that applies whether you're hard on the throttle or hard on the brakes. And that's due to a couple of things. That active rear wings moving and pirouetting around behind you to virtually force the car down into the road. And the proactive chassis control is keeping the tyres in contact with the road. I mean, this braking zone here is really, really bumpy, and by rights that should have a really unsettling effect on the car, but the suspension is just sorting it all out. Besides, this car is just so light and so balanced anyway that it changes direction absolutely effortlessly. The thing that really gets you though is this steering. There is just so much detail in there, and it is super fast, super direct and super responsive. There's also this new function called variable drift control, and that allows you to program the amount of slip that the rear wheels will give you before the traction control cuts in. So you just want to knock it down into second gear, put it deep into the corner and bury the throttle, and away you go. And it's really easy to catch. It must be, if I can do it. This car really is so impressive. £218,000, worth every penny.